Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today, I will be continuing my series of rebuilding a few Tier 1 Valorant rosters, and today I'll be rebuilding NRG, who, by most accounts, had a pretty disappointing year last year getting grouped at Champions. If you guys enjoyed this, make sure to like and subscribe, really helps me out. I spend a lot of time researching players for the series, so any help like that would be appreciated. Um, Also, leave a comment on what you thought of the roster, along with how the video worked and everything like that. If you want certain things to be different about how I go about explaining things, or just certain things that I go over, any constructive criticism like that is welcome. Um, but before we get into the roster and everything like that, I just want to do a few housekeeping things. This is what I would do. This roster, not what I predict will happen. So don't get mad at me if this isn't what actually happens in real life. We can kind of compare this to what they actually do and see if there's a if I was right, I think is the correct way to say that. But also, this is going to be an entire series of teams. So if there's a player that you think should have been picked up for this team, they might have already gone to another team in one of the videos that I've already done in 100 Thieves and Cloud9, or they might have gone to my next video, which is Sentinels. So if you're interested in any of those, go and check those out or stay tuned, depending on what it is. I'll also be doing a video at the end recapping the whole Americas region of what I would do, and then I'll be moving on to Pacific and then EMEA. But yeah, without further ado, let's get right into it. So we'll start off here with the season recap for this team. They brought in Artis and the Optic Core in the offseason, also getting Psalm. I kind of, in my head, had it as an offseason for those three as the Optic Core, losing Ye and Marved, and then bringing in Psalm and Artis, but obviously the org brought in the Optic Core and Artis, and then kept Psalm. At lock-in, they got 5th to 8th, going out against Loud in probably the game of the year, in my opinion. I know the lock-in finals was insane. I know what I don't even remember what other insane games there were. I mean, I guess EG Fnatic at Tokyo, all the stuff like that. I still think that game was the game of the year though. NRG Loud at lock-in. But then they got third in the VCT Americas regular season, where they had a extremely bad start. I don't remember their exact record, but they lost to MIBR midseason, which was just insane. And then the playoffs, they got second, only losing to Loud in the finals. They also lost to EG, but you get the point. Masters Tokyo, they got fourth, lost in tragic fashion to Paper Rex. And then at Champions, they went 0-4 against Billy Billy in maps and went out 9th to 12th in groups. So for every team, I've gone over their expectations for this new roster, and I think this one has to be the highest. This team should be expected to contend for a championship in their first season. Obviously, I'm not freaking out and panicking, cutting everybody if they don't, but you get the point. Like, this team should have gone deep in champions. And they didn't, and that's why they're making changes. So you'd expect to at least be able to get to that point with this next roster. And so now we have to go through who's staying and who is leaving. So we're keeping Crashies and Victor. I think those two are pretty obvious. They both had really, really good years, especially Victor. I think really went unnoticed as a flex player, especially as a raise player. When they put him on Duelist, even when he was playing Jet too, he looked really, really nice. Had some bad games towards the end, but it wasn't anything crazy. And then Crashies was incredible, especially towards the end of America's playoffs into Tokyo, and then kind of petered off a little bit for the rest of the year, but wasn't bad at all. Finesse and Sam, I'm gonna let leave because they said they wanted out on stream pretty much. They didn't want to play for the team anymore, which is fine. And it also just makes this more interesting. So on top of that, we'll also be shipping Artis back to EMEA where he belongs. He was not good for this team, as I'll get into in a bit. So as I've done in every episode here, is I'm going to go through why I'm replacing each player. So we'll start here with FNS and Sam. They wanted to leave. As I said before, that's really the main reason. Like, this move doesn't exactly strike me as they're going to get better by removing these two. But maybe it's just not going to work anymore. as an optic core, and these two just want to stay together. So it's not like you're going to remove FNS and then keep Psalm or the other way around. They have to be a package deal, as they've said on stream. So I'll honor that and I'll let them go. Also, I just wanted to say, like, if NRG had the choice between keeping FNS and Psalm and then letting FNS build his own roster in NRG, or keeping like Crashies and Victor and Chet, I would have gone with FNS and Psalm personally. I really just don't understand that decision, but regardless, I'll let those two leave. And then Artist, who was one of the worst duelists in Americas, I think he was probably seventh or eighth would be where I would put him. He was brought in to really be like a more flexible piece than Ye and let them run more comps, and that just didn't happen. Like, he played Raze and he was terrible on that. He played KO one time, wasn't great. Um, and then when he was like flexing to like Killjoy and stuff, he was okay. But even when he was playing Jet, he was maybe the most inconsistent player in the world. I don't know if that's too hot of a take. And also, he was just supposed to be one of the biggest like signings of the offseason to bring into a team that was already very good. And he was just very disappointing. And I think that has to factor into your decision to remove him. And that's kind of why I'm doing that.
So now onto why I'm keeping Victor and Crashies. First of all, they're one of the best duos in Valorant, whether it be how good they are as players or just their chemistry. They just work really well together. Just in clutch situations, like I trust them a lot in 2v4 situations. I was gonna say like the most in the world, but EG is just too good at those. And Paper X is also very good. Um, and I think they're both top players in their role in NA. Maybe not exactly the best, but I think Crash is still the best NA initiator, even though Com had a huge breakout tournament. And Victor is one of the better flex players in NA. I wouldn't rate him as the top, but he's definitely up there. And they improved so much last year in a meta where they could actually play agents that they're really good at. And also, like, it felt like in 2022, they were kind of more part of the system and not like trying or not set up to be as good individually, but they were more there to like support Marv and Ye on that team. But now they can actually kind of frag out, and I think that will continue in this team. So now that we've dropped Artist, Som, and FNS, we need to fill 4 or 3 roles, depending on how you look at it. You need a smokes player, a duelist, a sentinel, and an IGL. Um, I think duelist is probably one of the easiest roles to fill in North America, as we'll kind of see here. And smokes is also pretty like filled out in terms of how good these players are in NA. So let's just go through some of these. So for free agent IGLs or available IGLs, I guess, like not tier 1 players that are signed on contracts, you have John Cutie, Poised, and Net. I know Net isn't technically an IGL, but I do think he could IGL given the opportunity. Um, you got Xander, Scuba, Vic, and Marv as your top free agent controllers, as I'll get to later. Marv was let go by Sentinels in this world. Um, as for Sentinel players, you have Net, a Proto, Dapper, among a bunch of other names that are kind of not too great. And then for Duelist players, you have Koala, Yay, Oxy, Baby Bay. And I did forget to add Tex. Wait, no. No, yeah, Tex I picked up in the C9 video, so never mind. But the guard players are available here, as you can see. Um, I'm just going to assume for this, they don't find an organization as of right now. I would love for them to. Um, but as of right now, I have to start the series, and I already redid it after the news dropped. So I kind of have to go with it for now. I'm not going to delay the series too much longer. So that's kind of my thought process there. And as for who we will be bringing in to fill these holes, we'll start with Marv. As I talked about earlier, he is one of the best smokes players in the world right now. I think he's probably top 3, and was probably the best smokes player of 2022 in my opinion. Obviously, Maka was insane all year, but Marv might have had one of the best tournament runs of any player during Reykjavik in 2022. He was absurd at that event and then was still very good after that and this year for Sentinels. He's one of the best lurkers in the game, just straight up. I don't think you can really find too many guys better than him. Maybe like less. I think less is definitely better. You got some other guys that are in the conversation, but Marv is definitely up there and like the top two or three. His contract is up with Sentinels. I think this is the main reason. Um, Also, I have a replacement on Sentinels, so stay tuned to see who he gets replaced by. Yeah, replaced by. Is that the right way to say that? I'm not exactly sure. It's like 12:48 a.m. And I'm just trying to record these videos. And then also he's a computer science major, so hopefully, hopefully that translates into the game. And then to bring in an IGL, we have John Cutie, who he led in MAD to a top two finish in Ascension Americas. Was a pretty good caller. I do have a little bit of concerns that he was on like a tier two super team of sorts. Um, but also you could say the same thing about Valen, who I picked up in the last video and I was really high on. MAD was probably the best team all year up until those finals against the guard. And he just replaces the exact same roles as FNS, being Sentinel and IGL. But it's obviously slightly worse. Like you would rather have FNS than John Cutie, but FNS wanted out, so I'm gonna let him leave. Then our final player that I'll be picking up is Koala Noob, who, in my opinion, is one of the best Jets in all of North America, along with having a pretty good chamber to go along with it. He also played like Rays and Omen for MAD last year, but wasn't too great at that, in my opinion. Like they even opted to swap him off of the Rays and get Nismo on it, and then have him play something else on other maps like the Omen. He also, I think, played something else on Split, but I might be wrong about that. Um, but as I said, for John Cutie, who is a teammate of Koala Noob, and another reason why I wanted to pick Koala up for this team. Um, yeah, M80 was the best team in Tier 2 NA last year until the finals of the Ascension tournament, which was kind of unlucky that they lost that. I won't lie. I do think they were the better team all year, kind of as I talked about with John, but I don't know. The guard definitely did deserve it. He also adds a dynamic component to this team that they were missing since losing Ye and Marv, and now they're getting Koala and then also Marv back. So overall, I think these are some fairly nice changes. Just to go through the final roster here, we have Koala on Duelist and being our Opper, if he wants to switch to like Chamber or other stuff. Victor on Flex, Crashies on Initiator, John Cutie on Sentinel and Calling, and then Marv on Controller. So yeah, let me know what you guys thought of this in the comments below. Should be a very, very interesting offseason for this team, having made some changes to their IGL and one of their star players. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one for my Sentinels video, and then it will be on to Brazil and all of their changes going into their teams. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.